Otherwise, the taking of photographs, including screenshots, audio or video recordings, are not permitted during meetings unless with the express permission of the convener. Can members attending virtually activate their cameras where possible to enable you to join by video? And can all attendees mute their microphones when not speaking? Please do not come in during items unless I invite you to do so. If members attending virtually wish to speak at any point, please indicate by clicking on the raise your hand button. Members in the chamber, well, sorry, we're not in the chamber, but you know, obviously people online should just raise their hand. If members have not been able to access all papers for the meeting, please indicate. Today we'll hear each of the items set out in the agenda. I'll invite the officer to present the paper and members will then have the opportunity to ask questions before we proceed to debate and decision. So can we indicate if we have any apologies today or substitutions?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Benny, Councillor Fairley and Councillor Keogh. Councillor Harrison is substituting for Councillor Fairley. I don't believe we've got Councillor Quinn on the call.
No, that's noted, thank you. So the first item on the agenda is the minutes of the last meeting. So we'll go through those page by page. So starting off with page 7 of the papers, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, and a minute, sorry, my computer's been a bit slow, page 11. So does anybody have any concerns with the minutes? Are we all happy with those? Yep, okay, thank you. So we'll move on to item 4 on the agenda, which is the police performance report for Clackmannanshire, April 2024 to March 2025, and the report by the local police commander. And for that report, we have, sorry, I'm shuffling all my papers here. So with us this morning, we have Chief Superintendent Roddy Irvine, and paper will be presented by Gary Smith. So welcome along.
Thank you very much. Can I just check that you can hear me?
Yep.
So thanks very much. Before I hand over to Gary, I thought members might find it useful for me to provide some national updates and some Forth Valley-wide updates. So I'd like to bring to your attention the Policing for Our Communities programme, which is rolling out across Scotland, and Forth Valley is the pilot division. So this is made up of 3 projects that I'll talk through: enhancing community policing, safeguarding and investigations, and review of enabling services. So the pilot, we are the pilot for enhancing community policing, and I'll come to speak to that. And we're also going to be the pilot for safeguarding and investigations. So in terms of enhancing community policing, that went live in Forth Valley on the 29th of September. And one of the main changes there was an introduction of a community investigations hub. And the community investigations hub takes non-urgent inquiries away from response policing, which is a far more efficient way of doing business, and also allows response to be more available for calls and also to do some proactivity or more proactivity and prevention work. Community policing, we've committed to 2 named officers per multi-member ward, and response is largely unchanged except for that workload that's now done by the Community Investigation Hub, which means less backfilling for community police officers, allowing them to be problem solving in their wards. So in terms of safeguarding and investigations, really policing, frontline policing, and by that I mean response, community policing, traditional reactive CID work and public protection work, it hasn't really changed in the lifespan of Police Scotland, despite the demand, particularly in terms of public protection, not having changed. So the safeguarding and investigations work is ongoing, and the plan is for that to roll out at some point next year. The third project, which doesn't directly affect Forth Valley, but will peripherally affect Forth Valley, is review of enabling functions. And really, that's looking at headquarters functions in terms of efficiency in order to release officers back onto the front line, and also to make sure that processes are more efficient so that our officers on the front line can operate more efficiently. So that's policing for our communities. We've also recently received body-worn video, which is another efficiency measure. The main benefits there are transparency, public trust and confidence, reducing demand with better evidence, video evidence, and increasing early guilty pleas, and also officer safety. People are less likely to assault police officers or abuse police officers when they know that their behaviour is being captured on film. It's also, unfortunately, we do get a number of spurious complaints, and evidence from across the country indicates that those are reduced when people know that the behaviour has been captured on film. So just to finish up my piece, and I'm happy to take any questions, we've been through a period of unprecedented demand recently. A significant demand placed on the organisation was what we called Operation Roll, which was the visit of President Trump. Almost immediately after that, we had Operation Oakley, which was the visit of Vice President Vance. You'll be aware that we've been having significant protest activity across the country, which has placed significant demand on our officers, which has created a lot of abstractions, cancelled rest days. We also had the state visit of President Trump, and while there wasn't a footprint in Scotland, we were required to send mutual aid officers down south to support that. And on top of that, there has been some unprecedented other operational demands. So it's been a very busy period, which just happens to have really coincided with the launch of enhancing community policing in Forth Valley. But that was the sort of front loading I was wanting to do. So I'm happy to take any questions before I hand over to Gary.
Councillor Errol, you wanted to speak?
Yeah, thanks. I just turned my mic off. It's on the body-worn videos, Gary. There was a report recently that said that the west of Scotland were getting the videos, but they're still looking at bringing them in over the east. Is every officer in your command, are they all being fitted with the body-worn cameras? And is it evident to the members of the public that you're wearing the camera?
Yes, so all frontline officers in Forth Valley have now been provided, but with body-worn video. It's very prominent on the front of the uniform. It would be hard not to notice it. It does have a light on it, but also the officers are trained to verbalise, basically to say, I've now switched on body-worn video. Right. So you're being recorded. So yes, absolutely. It's very transparent, and people would know that they're being filmed.
Okay, I'm glad to hear it. I mean, it's got to help you in your work. So,
absolutely.
Well done. Yep, well done.
Thank you very much. So if that's the only question, I'll just ask Gary to come in with regard to the Clackmannanshire update.
Hey, thanks, Roddy.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chair. Can I just check, can everyone hear me this morning as well? Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. Well, let me first start by introducing myself. So I'm Gary Smith, Chief Inspector and recently appointed the Local Area Commander at Clack. So this is my first scrutiny board, so please bear with me. If there's any questions, then absolutely happy to answer at the end of the brief. And if there is anything, then please, come and contact me after this. Can I just start by taking the opportunity just to acknowledge the work that CI Thompson had completed while she was in post at Clackmannanshire. Kat has obviously been an advocate for changes and positive outcomes in Clackmannanshire. She's since moved on to a new role up at Stirling, and I would just invite the committee to do likewise and thank her for her contributions. Just a bit of background about myself. I've been a police officer now for 24 years. For the past 18 months, I've been working in Forth Valley, working at Stirling as the Service Delivery Chief Inspector. Throughout my career, I've completed investigative roles both locally and in national teams, CID, major investigations, spells within professional standards, anti-corruption and intelligence support. And prior to joining Forth Valley Division 18 months ago, I was kind of leading the desk delivery. So that's the design of the transformation project digital evidence sharing capability, which is now rolled out across the whole of Scotland. So I'm absolutely delighted to be here in Clackmannanshire and take on a new role for me as the local area commander. And as I say, I hope to meet each of you at some point in the near future as well. So very nice to meet you all. In terms of the update, I think Kat had previously provided some updates about resource and thereafter into the detail of the report, and I'll do likewise. So during the reporting period, the resource in that Clackmannanshire was stable. There were no gaps within response policing, community or the divisional alcohol and violence reduction unit. But as the commander has briefed in there, the Enhancing Community Project, or programme, sorry, was launched in September. Now this has had an impact on ourselves, and it's a positive one for Clackmannanshire. So the hub creation will lead to sort of non-urgent matters being removed from frontline officers, and they'll be progressed by the Community Investigation Hub. So the restructuring across the division is effectively meant that our divisional alcohol and violence reduction unit has been incorporated into that new structure. So the 4 posts that we had there are retained within Clackmannanshire, but what we also have is an additional 5 posts that have now been allocated to Clackmannanshire. So the new hub team will consist of 9 officers, uniformed officers, who will be out and about and obviously assisting members of the public with inquiries and diary appointments, etc. So it's a real positive for us. We do have the additional posts because it's an early stage at this kind of programme. They are vacant at the moment, but I hope to fill them in the very near future as well. So that gives us an additional 5 officers within Clackmannanshire, which is really positive. As the commander said, the community teams are unaffected, so we have 2 officers per ward in Clackmannanshire, and that team are led by PI Angus and supported by the 2 sergeants, Police Sergeant Scoldy and O'Reilly. Our incident response team, which is response policing traditionally, remain at Alloa, and they're ready to respond to urgent calls. And we've also got the 2 school-based officers who are obviously supporting the 3 schools, 3 academies throughout the area. I just want to touch upon the weekend policing plan as well. So I think it's been briefed in previously to the committee that every weekend we have a policing plan focused on the nighttime economy and supporting our communities, where officers are regularly visiting licensed premises and providing that reassurance to staff and customers that we're out and about. So that's just my kind of preamble. I'll take me on to the actual scrutiny report now. So let me just assure everyone that Clackmannanshire does remain a safe place to live and work. There are current threats, and the threats are listed within the report, and we are focused on domestic abuse, crimes of violence, possession, supply of controlled drugs, antisocial behaviour and crimes of dishonesty, which we kind of recognise as acquisitive crime. I'm going to give an overview on a couple of these threats. So in particular, during the reporting period, there was a slight reduction in violent crimes and disorder complaints across Clackmannanshire. Within the report, there's 2 attempt murder incidents detailed. They were viciously attacked. Victims were viciously attacked by people who were known to them. Officers and emergency services attended really quickly, and the suspects were arrested quickly thereafter. So it just gives a bit of oversight as to the nature of incidents that are happening. 27 serious assaults were reported. That was less than last year, and importantly, our detection rate has increased to 88.9%. Again, that's a real positive in terms of our investigation detection of such crimes. 20 robberies and assaults assaults with intent to rob were reported. It is 6 more than last year. However, our detection rate remains high. It's sitting at 80% at the moment. And again, within the report, I've summarised several incidents, just giving members some context around the violence and the threats commonly reported to ourselves. The reports of kind of non-injury assaults, which I'll refer to as common assaults, remain consistent with last year, as does the detection rate. So that's very minor crime, minor assaults. The disorder complaints have reduced, and has the vandalisms that have been recorded in Clackmannanshire. Now, while this is positive, I do fully appreciate that antisocial behaviour isn't always reported to the police. So whilst the stats are saying that, you know, incidents have gone down, that might not be a true reflection within our communities. And again, I would just encourage the communities to report any behaviours, allowing ourselves and partners to take action or preventative measures as well. I've also included a bit about police assaults. So within the reporting period, 15 police assaults were recorded. As the commander says, with the introduction of body-worn video, we hope and anticipate that these numbers will reduce, and we've certainly seen in the short time that we've been running them, offender behaviour changing as a result of the cameras. Now, Councillor Errol, if it would be helpful, at the end of my update, I can go and grab a camera just to demonstrate and show you the size of it and where it would sort of be positioned, if that would be helpful as well. So they are retained in a room next door to me, so easily to access. Moving on to domestic abuse incidents. So during the reporting period, there has been a small reduction in the number of domestic abuse incidents that have been reported. However, at 668 incidents, it's still positive. It still demonstrates that there is an increased confidence in police and our partners. The reduction in crimes are consistent with the reduction in incidents. And as an organisation, it's important to acknowledge that we're constantly trying to improve our response to domestic abuse incidents, break down barriers, particularly around about the lack of trust in policing, poor experiences that the survivors may have had in the past or have heard third-hand through other people, and insensitive responses. So there is work happening within the organisation. I'll touch on that in a wee minute. So domestic abuse incidents can sometimes be challenging to investigate with limited evidence available, but our detection rate this year has improved to 66.3%. And just to give a bit of reassurance again, where investigations are reported to the police, we will do our very best to resolve those incidents. So that may mean that the actual investigation is passed from shift to shift to ensure that we are making all efforts to trace and arrest domestic abusers. During the reporting period, as I said, we are looking to improve as an organisation. And certainly nationally, we refreshed the domestic abuse training that was available to officers, as well as introducing continuous professional development modules. Now, these are modules that are focused on particular themes, such as the effects of trauma. So when response officers are engaging with survivors, then actually having that understanding of what the impacts of trauma may have been, that might assist in terms of statement taking, etc., where accounts are maybe not as what we would expect them to be. Other kind of themes would be sort of multi-agency tools to support survivors and tackle offenders, domestic abuse and impacts on children, and one that's kind of close to my heart, having some experience in the digital field, is the use of technology, and in particular social media and domestic abuse. So these are some of the content and some of the knowledge that's now available to officers, and our officers are engaging with these modules. And just along with some other advancements, certainly in Police Scotland, round about cybercrime and digital crime, there are knowledge hubs and academies that have been set up. And again, officers are growing in terms of their own development and knowledge base. This does help us when we are investigating and responding to domestic abuse incidents. and one particular one, as I touched upon, desk. So it's a big advantage for us now having desk available throughout Scotland. So survivors no longer have to release their mobile phone and have them taken off them. They can now share digital evidence directly with the police as a response to incidents. So it's a real positive. It takes some of that trauma away from it, because I know a lot of people, their lives are based on digital devices as well. So it's a real positive. And again, just some reassurance around about how we respond to domestic abuse. So post domestic incident, we've got specialist officers who will reach out and discuss support and signposting to partner agencies and third sector organisations who can help. And that is that trauma response and support, which is really important, particularly for vulnerable people who have gone through something traumatic. We also have Strive within Clackmannanshire, and we make good use of Strive. There's daily meetings where cases are discussed and support is provided. And some of the kind of benefits of that is where we can put additional protection measures in place for survivors. So providing mobile phones if one's been damaged or stolen, or supporting them with ring doorbell footage, ring doorbell devices to be put onto their properties, just giving them that bit of reassurance and protection. And again, just in terms of domestic abuse, we have the MATAC and MARAC processes, which are multi-agency responses. And again, within the report, I've detailed one such case where we've made good use of that multi-agency tools, where we've tackled a high-risk offender by revisiting previous partners and allowing them the opportunity to report unreported crime. It's led to a number of additional charges, so there's some summarised within the report. And again, just to keep on the theme of domestic abuse, we do regularly follow up with bail checks and ensure that survivors are aware of the bail conditions, and you'll see that there's been 23 reported breaches of bail within that reporting period. And again, our compliance remains very high at over 95%. So, and the final thing round about domestic abuse is our disclosure scheme for Domestic Abuse Scotland. There's detail within the report. In summary, 47 applications were made to Police Scotland and 24 disclosures were made to concerned persons. If I can move on to sexual crime. So the reports of sexual crime have reduced slightly in Clackmannanshire. The detection rate has increased to 60%, and that's sitting at 53% for rape investigations at the moment. So in terms of the rape reports or reported rapes to ourselves, it was 25 last year and it's sitting at 26 at the moment, within that reporting period. And that's 26, investigations where our specially trained officers from CID and Public Protection Units support our local teams, ensuring that survivors are getting the right care, they're getting that right response and support, and investigations are completed thoroughly in line with the policies, etc. that we have. So one other aspect I would like to just touch on is around about sextortion. So I think it's been raised a couple of times previously. Sextortion is an online crime committed generally against children and young people, but some adults are also being victim of such criminality, and it's where children are encouraged to share images of themselves and thereafter demands are made for financial gain. So our SBOs are active in terms of that education. They work within the academies and providing information to our children and young people, how to spot the signs of it, where to get help, how to support friends and family members. And Fearless is the youth service of Crime Stoppers. They launched a campaign within the reporting period where again it was about raising awareness of such crimes, and that was supported by Forth Valley's Detective Super Michelle Finlay. So again, it's very close to Forth Valley. We have some high profile investigations, some tragic investigations, so it really is a priority for not just for Valley but for the force. And if I can just appeal to members as well, so there will be parents on this call at the moment. I just remind that victims should not feel embarrassed. They shouldn't feel that they can't tell MD. They should trust, parents, guardians, teachers, police, and report it and get the support and assistance that they need. So it's just to reiterate that, because it is an insidious crime and it has devastating impacts on people. Again, officers within the reporting period, the launch of the 16 Days of Activism, gender-based violence event at the Alloa Town Hall was supported by officers from Police Scotland. In particular, the launch of That Guy campaign, which is a national sexual crime prevention campaign. It was launched in October, and it consists of adverts and a series of podcasts really aimed at young men between the age of 18 to 35, but wider age than that as well. And it encourages that conversation about behaviours and attitudes towards women that may put women at risk of sexual harm. It's promoted within universities, schools across Forth Valley, and again it's part of some of the educational work that happens within schooling as well. And I believe in June, I'm told that Sergeant Strang from our Prevent team delivered an input to elected members. I think there was 5 members from this group who may have attended, and as I'm led to believe, there was really positive feedback about that campaign. So we're continuing to develop that. The campaign, and I know Lee and others within the PIP are developing further slides. So if there is any further information required on that, then please reach out to me off table. That would be ideal. Moving on to another threat in terms of drug supply and possession. So you see within the report there's various summarised incidents that I've sort of listed there. So the detection rates for drug supply has dropped. However, positively, we are still targeting offenders based on intelligence from our communities and intelligence that we're generating. So they are proactive-led inquiries and intelligence-led inquiries, and within that, there's mention of some of the warrantry that we've managed to execute and some of the proactive work and stops that the officers have conducted. And it gives, again, a flavour in terms of what types of drugs we're seeing and how we're managing that across Clackmannanshire. Stop search is a really useful tactic for ourselves, and stop searches have gone up from last year to this year. So it was 130 last year and it's 154 this year. As I say, it's a really useful tactic as we try to combat drug supply, drug use within Clackmannanshire. And again, individuals are searched under legislation and the Code of Practice, and it's generally for drugs, weapons and stolen property. I also want to touch upon the 3 cannabis cultivations that were discovered during the reporting period. So £280,000 worth of plants were recovered, and the equipment seized, and that's since been destroyed. So we have disrupted that activity. These sites were unrelated to each other, and 5 individuals have been arrested and charged accordingly. But just to touch on cultivations, it is a national threat, and it's not to say that there's not further sites operating within Clackmannanshire. So again, it's really based upon intelligence-led policing, and I would encourage residents and council members to look out for such sites. Generally, we've seen them in industrial, unused industrial sites, but also home addresses are relatively kind of common as well here. Those operating them have got absolutely no concern for public safety, and they are a major fire risk with the wiring being bypassed, meters being bypassed to provide power. Generally, they are hydroponics, so there's water and electricity. It isn't a good mix. So again, it's round about that prevent side, and I know certainly officers from our proactive unit and local officers, CP officers, are engaging with housing officers throughout the authority, just to make sure that we're doing stringent checks on properties. But again, it's really key that this is intelligence led and we listen to our communities. So where there are concerns that a cultivation site may be in their area, then I would encourage folk to report that and let us investigate that fully. Acquisitive crime, I've mentioned there an operation focused on warrants for offenders who are involved in acquisitive crime. 42 warrants were executed and resulted in 6 males and 5 females being arrested. I've also summarised a crime series which was identified following intelligence provided to the police, and that involved the theft of copper cabling. It's large scale, machinery has been used to dig up large meters and meters worth of copper cable. That's then taken to scrap metal yards and money's obviously obtained for that. So this is early, in terms of this investigation, involved 2 individuals from the Clackmannanshire area, but it is linked to wider organised crime, and inquiries are going on at a national level for that. So it just shows that our public are reporting intelligence to us, and we're acting upon it. Shoplifting remains an issue for Clackmannanshire, so 479 crimes were recorded last year. This is significantly less than the national increase, which is well reported within the media. And what I'm seeing, certainly from my short time here, is the offenders tend to be repeat offenders that we're experiencing in Clackmannanshire. Security officers and staff within premises tend to know who they are, and we can identify them quickly. Our detection rate is almost at 70% for that type of crime as well. And I think Kat touched upon at the last committee around about the Retail Crime Task Force, which is a dedicated unit within Police Scotland. We haven't had to use them at the moment, but they are a resource that we can call upon should we need to. And finally, it brings me to the road safety and road crimes. They remain a priority for us. Our priority routes are Devon Road, the A91 and the A908, the B140 in Fishcross. Can I just clarify that the Devon Road is not Clackmannan, it's Dollar, it's the B913. That was a typo in the report. It was just classed as the wrong area. So that remains a priority for us. And again, local officers are supported by roads policing to educate drivers and to enforce legislation where crimes have been committed. And again, within the report, it mentions the fatal 5, which is careless driving, drink driving, drug driving, not wearing a seatbelt, using a mobile phone and speeding. That's the focus in terms of our enforcement activities. Dangerous driving detections have increased, while other road offences have reduced a little. And during the last festive campaign, we utilised Central FM to broadcast safety messages throughout the month of December. Again, within the report, you'll see some information about the SBOs delivering cycle safety inputs to school and youth groups, and that was timed right so that we caught the kids prior to them going on to summer holidays. And again, with the introduction of cycle pass throughout Clackmannanshire, it's a real positive. I'm going to pause there because I think I've probably covered what I want to cover, and I would maybe just invite any questions, Chair.
Thanks so much. That was an excellent and comprehensive report. I think it gave us so much information and certainly asked a fair number of the questions that I had. I think hearing about the trauma-informed work you're doing is really, really excellent. I mean, I'm going to open up to others for questions first before I come on to any that residual for me. So I think Councillor Forson, you were first.
Thanks, Janine, and hiya, Gary. It's nice to meet you. If it's not face to face, in person, at least it's online. I'm hoping that a date's going in a diary for us to get a bit of a catch up just around local issues. I've got quite a lot of questions. Do you want me just to go through them all, or do you want me kind of stop after each one?
If you want to kind of run through them, I'll take a wee note and I'll try my best to answer.
Brilliant, thanks. So I'm the chair of the Community Planning Partnership, and we obviously are trying to kind of move things on a little bit here. So I'm just looking for a bit of commitment that the police will be fully involved in that. You're kind of one of our main partners, a statutory partner in many areas. So it'd be good to get some commitment that that will be a priority moving forward. Just last year, well, it was earlier this year, we agreed our antisocial behaviour plan, and Kat had agreed to lead the community safety partnership as part of the community planning partnership. So again, I'm just looking for a wee bit of commitment that that will still be picked up and taken forward. I did welcome your focus in the report there on the violence against women and girls. That's a priority for the community planning partnership. I was just going to note that at the last meetings, certainly that I've attended, there hasn't been any kind of police presence on that forum. So it'd be really good to, kind of get that picked up. when Audrey was here, she never missed a meeting of it. It really was a priority for her, and I think that kind of shone through in the work and things that we were able to achieve. It's a really, really good partnership, and it would be good to have the kind of police round the table on that one. I'm going to be a bit parochial and raise Alloa Community Council. Every meeting I go to, they raise that there's not been any police presence for some time at the Community Council. They're told that it's because the officer who covers it doesn't work nights. It would be really good to get some police presence because they are feeling a bit neglected there. I'll move on to maybe parking. You highlighted the Kelly Bank issue in the report, which was good to see. Although since that piece of work's been done, there's not been really any follow-up on that. So I'm just getting reports that it's gone back as bad as ever again. So it would be good to know what we can do to work together to achieve that. I know that council officers had did some work in relation to bollards and painting the lines, etc. The town centre parking, again, just based on feedback, the council had spent £14,000 kind of repainting all the lines, etc. And certainly the feedback from the public is that enforcement has been sporadic again. I think there's been a wee bit of attention this week. The cynic in me is that's because maybe you were coming here and you knew it was going to be raised. But it's certainly something that gets raised at every single community council meeting. I don't know if you're aware of the parking, like, I'm not going to say the words, kind of Facebook page, but Alloa kind of features very, very heavily on there. So again, it'd just be good to know that, you know, what can we do to support, you know, the kind of police and the work around that. I know, you know, in the big grand scheme of things, it's maybe not a huge priority, but it is a priority for local people, and it's the one issue that I'm completely, you know, kind of getting raised with me consistently. And I just want, and I noticed your points there in relation to the cannabis seizures. Can I just ask, this is a purely personal thing. See, whenever you do a seizure and it's stored in the council, the council building absolutely stinks of it. And it's not necessarily great when we're bringing in visitors, etc. So is there anything we can do to, you know, kind of move the seized goods on a wee bit faster? I think the last time they were here nearly for a whole week, and it's not particularly great. Or is there somewhere else that can be stored that they're not necessarily kind of, you know, kind of seeping out into the nearby offices? And I think that's me for now. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Very nice to meet you as well, albeit it's digital, not face to face. Yeah, more than happy to meet with you and discuss some of the matters there. So, in terms of the community planning partnership, absolutely. You know, I'm now in post and I'll take on the work that Kat had started. So I'm more than happy to be involved in the partnership as we move forward. The anti-social plan, I'm aware that there was one created. I haven't had sight of it as yet, but yeah, absolutely happy to support and continue with the community safety partnership. The violence against women and girls is something that's close to my heart. I was 4 years as the detective inspector leading online child sexual abuse and exploitation. So I know the consequences of it. So I'm absolutely, you know, invested in that, you know, critical work that we do as an organisation. So I'll be more than happy to attend meetings moving forward. In terms of the Alloa Community Council meeting, I'm not aware of that, but I'll certainly go and speak to the community team and make sure that we get representation at that group. I don't like the fact that they're feeling missed out, so we'll sort that. In terms of the parking, parking is an issue I'm aware of, having come into post. It is a long-standing issue, and there's, you know, various things happening in terms of the council's approach to this. You know, I'm surprised that, you know, within Scotland, Clackmannanshire is one of very few that have still got criminalised parking, and it's police that enforce that as opposed to the decriminalised process. And I'm aware that is moving forward as well now. So there are plans in place, which is a real positive, and it'll be a positive for the communities as well. As I've described there, we have various threats, you know, risks to our public. So where we can, we certainly will focus on it. I would say it's not a priority in terms of every other threat that we're facing at the moment, from domestic abuse to drug dealing, and the real consequences that drug dealing can have as well, where people are losing their lives as a result of drug related incidents. So I can assure you that we'll certainly look at it, and where we have resource and the demand isn't as pressing, then we'll certainly go around and we'll enforce. But as I say, we have got competing demands at the moment, with more risky business as such and more risky threats. However, I'm committed to going and having a review of that and seeing what else we can do to try and improve things. And again, working with partners if there's any opportunities there to educate people. I know certainly from a short time here, I mean, parking, there's free parking throughout Alloa town centre. You only have to walk across the road, and there's numerous sites. So we'll see what we can do to combat that for you. I'm not aware of the Facebook page certainly, but it's certainly something to be concerned of. And in terms of the storage, I absolutely identify with that. My room's right next to the production store, so unfortunately it can be a bit challenging. I absolutely get that, and particularly when you're bringing visitors into the building. I've got diffusers in my room, which is a practical way, but certainly we'll see what we can do. We are governed by our production stores as well, so we have got set periods where we can take productions to them, and obviously they have periods where they have to then dispose of such drugs, cannabis, etc. So we can't always get them in. So it is a challenge. It's something, again, we'll look at and see if we can improve.
Okay, Councillor Forson, you happy? Okay with that? Yeah. Councillor Harrison?
Thanks, Chair. Morning, Gary. Gary, my questions are around about antisocial behaviour. Looking through the report, I didn't see any narrative around about antisocial behaviour, apart from there was one very brief comment, and it was actually as part of vehicles being seized by no insurance. It was mentioned that they actually caught this while doing an antisocial behaviour task. I see the data there. If I'm being honest, the data doesn't really stack up for me. I think any of the ward members that are on will back me up with this. The antisocial behaviour seems to be getting worse. My ward in particular, Clackmannan, at the moment, as you're well aware, has seen quite a lot of that, particularly in the town centre. I know Telecurity has been bad recently. Can you just give us an idea of what it is that you're going to be doing to try and kind of prevent antisocial behaviour, and when it does happen, actually something done about it with the people who are involved in it? Thanks.
Yep, thanks, Councillor. And again, thank you for meeting with me the other week down in Clackmannan, just discussing some of the current challenges. So I think on the reporting period, and probably in recent months, as the Commander has mentioned, the division has been pushed for resourcing and supporting national events, national visits, which has had an impact on our communities. So it has, removed resource temporarily from shift to shift to go and support, whether it be the protests at the moment that are happening elsewhere within Forth Valley as well. But we now have plans in place where there's national resource that are supporting the division and allowing us to put our community officers back in the communities. And I think that's been a challenge for quite a few months now, where the visibility of officers is maybe not there, and that reassurance to the public is maybe not there. So for me, as I say, I've only been here 4 or 5 weeks now, but that's a priority for me. I want to get officers back in the communities. I want them to be visible. I want them to be engaging with people. I want them to be dealing with any antisocial behaviour that is, raising its head. So again, that's my commitment. Coming in here as the local area commander, it is a massive impact, and it can, have devastating impacts on people as well. So we've got elderly residents throughout Clackmannanshire where a smashed window or something getting damaged in their garden can have a lasting impact on them, and it's how we respond to that and give them that reassurance that we're doing all we can. I touched upon the fact that we've got 5 new posts coming to Clackmannanshire as well, so that's a real positive. That's another 5 officers that are going to be out and about doing high visibility patrols. They're going to be engaging with members of the public and just improving our response to reported crimes. So some of them will be antisocial behaviour that is maybe a non-urgent matter, and where we get the opportunity to actually spend a bit of quality time with people and give them that reassurance. And again, our response officers, with the restructuring that we've had, the demands are reducing on frontline officers, so we're removing and being more efficient, so they'll have the opportunity to again be patrolling about, and again, our community officers and my community inspector and sergeants will be engaging with the community councils, as will I. And again, I'm happy to meet with councillors as well and talk about challenges within the different wards as well, and come up with sort of plans to tackle that. I hope that gives you some reassurances round about the commitment and my want to improve. I completely agree. I think the data for antisocial behaviour is misleading. It shows that there is a reduction in terms of calls being made to the police and vandalism's been reported, to touch on a couple of incidents. The reality is people may not pick up the phone to us. They may not feel that it's urgent enough or it's important enough to phone the police. And again, that tends to be an age thing as well. With people, you wouldn't phone the police for that. We'll just deal with ourselves. That can't be the case. If they are experiencing antisocial behaviours, then they need to pick up the phone, report it to us, and we can put plans in place. We can try and target individuals, preventative measures, and respond to those concerns. So again, just I suppose an appeal for our community members to report in matters that we can progress. Again, some of the antisocial behaviour that we're seeing is youths. It's sort of 12, 13, 14-year-olds. And again, there's various routes once those individuals are detected, diversion routes, etc. And there's some information within the report round about the early interventions schemes that we have running as well. And part of that is educating people in terms of the impacts of their actions. So, for example, if it has a window that's been smashed, it's understanding that there's a cost to the victim, and it's that impact that on their health, their mental health as well as their physical health as well in some cases. So there's an education piece here, and that's where our SPOs are critical in terms of the preventative aspect as well, allowing kids to recognise and respect their communities and actually be part of the community as opposed to committing these offences. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, yep. Councillor Earl?
Yeah, thank you, Gary, for that invitation to have a look at the body worn cameras. I'll take a look at that later. Many of my questions have already been answered, but have already been asked by Helen and Scott, particularly around the parking situation that exists not only in Alloa but right across Clackmannanshire. And yeah, I'm aware that there are moves on at the moment to try and tackle that. It's a long process. Legal processes, for some reason, always seem to be long, but hopefully we'll get there. You talked earlier there about community policing, and you said there are a total of 9 officers, and that's going to be 2 in each ward. We have 5 wards. So when I went to school, 2 times 5 is 10.
No, so what I spoke about, Councillor, was the 9 additional officers that are kind of restructured. Within the restructure, we have community officers, so we still have 10 community officers, so that is two per ward, and they're supported by their sergeants and inspectors. What we have now, additional to that, is a community investigation hub. So that's where the 9 officers are going to be based. They're still community based. They'll be based up here at Alloa, and they'll be part of our team here. So we have a response, our incident responders, our community policing team, and then we've got this addition now of the community investigation hub, which has taken in the officers from the divisional alcohol and violence reduction unit, who I think Kat maybe briefed in before. We had 4 officers that were able to be deployed for, antisocial behaviour, domestic abuse incidents, etc. So that remains. So we now have the additional 5 posts that will be added to those 4, and it's been rebranded as Community Investigation Hub. So it does give us that bit more resilience within Clackmannanshire. Again, hopefully through time, once I get those posts filled, because at the moment they've been identified, they're sitting here but they're vacant. And as the commander had mentioned, it's early stages in terms of this phase, but we will fully support the investigation hubs across the subdivision. And again, just a bit further in that, so whilst these are the sort of external hubs, if you like, that are sitting at local divisions, within Clackmannanshire we have an internal hub as well. So we've got officers that are a back office function who will be assessing the risk and threat of calls that have been passed from C3 division, where there's opportunities to have an early intervention and potentially resolve issues over the phone. Then our officers up at Stirling will be reaching out to our communities and having those conversations with people as well. That'll be incidents will still be recorded, and if there are local issues, that will then make its way through to ourselves locally at subdivision. So it just gives that wee bit of oversight in terms of how the hub's going to kind of function within Forth Valley Division.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Gary.
No problem.
Okay, I think everybody's covered what I was going to ask. There's just one point I wanted to make, and that was based on the That Guy campaign, which I think is amazing. I think, having worked in the field before, one of the struggles I think particularly for women is that they really feel that if they report rape that happens in relationships, that it won't go further. Simply, in a lot of cases that do go further, don't go to any kind of conviction because the corroboration's not there. And I think looking at the resources from the campaign, particularly on the consent resources, I think are really, really important. And I just wondered, on the back of the work done with men, would there be work with women to say that they will be listened to if they experience rape within a relationship, and whether that would be taken forward and they would have a good outcome from that?
Thank you, Chair. I think that's a really good point that you make there. It's an excellent point. I think part of That Guy is a national campaign, and it's been led through our sort of national public protection teams. So I'll certainly feed that back in to the teams to consider, a future campaign as well, to target women and show them that, come to the police, you will be supported, and, we will investigate crimes that have been reported. So I think that's a really excellent point, and I'll take that back, and I'll link in with our national public protection team.
Thanks very much. That's been really excellent. Does anybody have any other questions? Roddy, you wanted to come in?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just to build on the question with regard to sexual crime. So we're being an awful lot more proactive now, and the DISDA scheme, the Domestic Abuse Disclosure Scheme Scotland, that proactively identifies a great deal of sexual offending, because quite often what happens is when we go out with the power to tell and we make contact with a potential domestic abuse victim, unfortunately quite a high number of domestic abuse incidents involve sexual crime, and quite often when we speak to that victim, they'll disclose sexual offending that we might never have been aware of. But what they also quite often do is say, you probably need to speak to the previous partner. And when we do the power to tell to the previous partner, we can sometimes find out domestic abuse, which can contain sexual crime that we would never have heard of. So it's just, what I probably wanted to raise there was absolutely, and anyone watching this, in any environment you have where you can tell people to come to the police, they will be treated sympathetically, and they will be treated and taken very seriously. But also, we are proactively reaching out to people and generating reports that we might never have got in the past. So I just wanted to add that in terms of the proactivity.
And I guess that gives the opportunity for more of, doesn't it, in terms of like multiple victims? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, thanks. Thanks so much. No, well, thank you very much. I think that was a really comprehensive report, and I really value the narrative you gave around that as well. So I'm happy to move the report. Gary, you're wanting to come in before I move on?
Sorry, Chair, thanks very much for that. It was just to demonstrate the body-worn camera here, if that's okay, just 30 seconds, just to show the committee. So this is the type of device that will be used by officers and is being used by officers at the moment. So it's a relatively small kind of device. It's got the logo and it shows as video recording. So that device will sit on body-worn, body armour, and it sits roughly about there in terms of the clips. So it's kind of prominent on an officer's uniform. Generally, we're wearing high visibility uniform, so it does stand out. And again, when officers are using it, they will instruct the persons that they are going to record. So the big button in the middle, we press the button and that then starts recording whatever the incident is. So it is fairly intrusive. You can see it, it's not, you know, covert in any way. And as I say, as the commander mentioned earlier, officers are trained to identify that this device is now in use when dealing with incidents. And we have seen some real positives already through this. So there's been, you know, violence, etc., has been recorded on it, but equally corroboration for domestic abuse incidents as well, where, you know, statements are maybe not provided, but a verbal is provided by, you know, a witness or a survivor as well. So there's real positives with this. As I say, if anybody wants to see it and more information about it, then I'm happy to kind of meet with people or discuss it. But hopefully that provides a bit of kind of understanding about that. Is there any questions in terms of the body worn?
No, thanks, Gary. I mean, I've seen the thing, so it looks what I thought it would be. And more power to your elbow.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Councillor. Sorry, yeah. Chair. Thank you very much.
No, so as I said, I'm happy to move the paper, and you know, we really appreciate that feedback, and I concur with Councillor Forson. It will be really excellent to have more involvement in the sort of the Alliance and other sort of community activities. So it all sounds excellent in terms of the way things are moving forward. I was really encouraged to hear about the trauma-informed approaches that are happening. I think that's a massive move forward when I started in the field 20 years ago. And it's really excellent to see. So really pleased about that. So yeah, thanks so much. And just to say, we had our pre-meeting the other day, and we had a discussion around often what happens in these committees is there's a lot of sort of inquiry type things that come up to the police, because often people are frustrated with that. So you did open up and say at that meeting that people in the committee could come to the police at any time to discuss any inquiry issues that come up. So that was really gratefully received as well. So thank you. So I'm happy to propose the paper. So anyone to second? Councillor Forson?
Yeah, happy to second the paper. It's always good to get the report, and you covered it quite comprehensively there, Gary, so it was good to hear. I'm glad to get the commitment on the areas. It's sometimes a frustration for me that, particularly in the community planning partnership, that partners don't necessarily, you know, give the same commitment. So good to get that from you. The Violence Against Women and Girls Partnership is again another area of focus for me, and I think it always works better when we're kind of working together on these things, and we get better results there. So good to get your commitment on that as well. I do appreciate the comments about resourcing and the parking, but as long as it remains criminalised, I have to raise the issues with you and with your police colleagues, and as long as it remains an issue in the community, I will continue to do that. I sometimes think a wee bit more of a consistent approach would maybe get better results, because it seems to be a bit piecemeal, and you know, there's a wee bit of focus on it for a week and then nothing for, you know, maybe the next month or so, and people get to know that. So anything that we can do to help to move the issue forward. It's one of the reasons that we did repaint all the lines, because we were told it would be easier to carry out enforcement, etc. So that would be really helpful. But yeah, looking forward to working with you over the coming months and hopefully years.
Thank you. So the paper's now open for debate. Would anybody like to debate the paper? No, we're happy to note the paper. Okay, thank you. Thanks so much for coming along. That was really helpful, and we look forward to working with you in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone. Really nice to meet everyone as well. Thank you.
Okay. Right, committee, we'll move on to item 5, which is the fire performance report, 6-month Q1 and Q2 2025-26. And we will be joined by Des Donnelly, Group Commander, and Station Commander David Small. So over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm pleased to be back at the Scrutiny Committee again. And this time I bring with me my colleague, Davy Small. Davy is currently the Station Commander here locally in Alloa and has responsibility for the Alloa hold time, Alloa on call, and Tillicootree within Clickmanager area. Chair, if it's okay, prior to going into the report, just a wee highlight, a wee update on our ongoing service delivery review, if I can. So over the last year, we've been carrying out a public consultation with 23 options for change proposed across Scotland. These include station closures, changes to shift patterns, and a move to more preventative work, as well as training and training officers. Within our area that we are responsible for, we have Clickmanager, Fife and Stirling, so we cover 3 local authority areas. We've got 5 stations impacted, and this has taken a lot of time for our teams, and we've a lot of focus and a lot of scrutiny indeed on the 5 proposals for our area. From December 2025, we will find out the outcomes of the public consultation that we'd carried out this year, and we will then progress any options selected for our local senior officer area. So that's just a very brief update on where we are, whilst recognising that Clickmanager isn't directly impacted, but there will be a knock-on effect should any stations close or shifts change round about the area. In terms of the report, I'm pleased to present the 2025-26 Q1 and Q2 performance report for your scrutiny. I'd like to highlight some key areas and will welcome questions and comments at the end if I can. So we're probably getting used to this new report. This is, I think, the 3rd that we've brought to this particular committee, with Rachel Rogers having been round about April for last year's annual report. So we've got within Section 1. Section 1 of the report provides an overarching summary of activity over the last 6 months, detailing a total of 437 incidents across Clickmanager. These are then broken down into categories, as you can see from the individual boxes there, and we'll move into the detail of that as I go through this. Home fire safety visits and fire safety audits, I should note, aren't included. They're not incidents, so if you're doing adding up, they won't add up because they're not classed as incidents, so the numbers don't necessarily add up to that total incident number at the top of the page there. Moving across into Section 2. Section 2 provides some charts and graphs there, providing trends. This provides a comparison across 16 quarters or 4 years to allow you and us to identify themes and trends. An example here is in the deliberate fires, where we tend to see a spike around Q1 every year. What we tend to find, and our police colleagues would normally back us up on this, they're away now. Prior to the Easter school holidays, we see a real spike, or during the school holidays, a real spike in deliberate fire setting. And it's an area we target every year through school talks, school visits. And we can now, with the use of this data, preempt when we are going to potentially see a spike in incidents. So as I say, this allows us to plan ahead and deliver our fire safety talks to schools as part of our seasonal thematic action plans. And if I may, I'll just run through the various sections now. So moving on to accidental dwelling fires. This reporting period has seen 16 accidental dwelling fires. This is fairly consistent with previous years, although we do see peaks and troughs across the year. Cooking remains to be the highest cause of dwelling fires, and our crews continue to offer our home fire safety visits to the most vulnerable or high risk in our communities. And with a move to a new partner referral app, we fully encourage our partners to sign up to that application to refer those most at risk in our communities. As a result of those 16 dwelling fires, we have had 3 rescues with 2 non-fatal casualties. That's people who are given first aid at the scene, and we're always supported with Scottish Ambulance Service attending incidents where dwelling fires and people are involved. It is pleasing to note that there were no fire fatalities during the reporting period. In terms of non-fire casualties include those such as water rescue and where people have been rescued by firefighters. The Scottish Fire and Rescue Service also attend with other agencies and to support other agencies. This might be, for example, attending with Scottish Ambulance Service at their request to gain access to a lockfast premises where they believe or they know to be a person within that premises. If we then find a casualty or a fatality, we would report that as a statistic, and there's a danger there, of course, with the Scottish Ambulance Service. It's their casualty, it's their statistic, and they would also report that. And the largest majority of the casualties has been Clickmannanshire East, but of course the numbers are particularly low around this. Moving on to deliberate fire setting, which takes up most of our time and most of our resource. As I said, you can see with the peaks and troughs that we have seasonal issues, one with deliberate fire setting, which can be of malicious intent and usually round about Easter time. We also have then a spike during the wildfire season where we do see a huge increase in deliberate fire setting. So across Clickmannanshire, we had 69 deliberate fires in the last, that should say, 6-month period. Apologies, Chair, that's a typo. Refuse fires, so rubbish, continues to be the main cause of deliberate fire setting, and we do continue to work with partners on reduction strategies to tackle this. Quite often that can be identification of fly tipping, reporting it through the correct channels, and ensuring that that fly tipping is picked up before it's set alight. Grassland and outdoor fires continue as climate changes across Scotland, and this is definitely an area of focus for us through our wildfire strategy. Probably remiss of me at this point in terms of deliberate fire setting with a plea, if I can. So we're just about to enter, or tomorrow starts our bonfire season. Whilst we might be 5 or 6 days away, we tend to find that from the 31st of October right through for a full week, we will see an increase in deliberate fire setting, antisocial behaviour through the use of fireworks, and just general antisocial behaviour for that period of time. So the plea and the ask is for local authority in particular, that any derelict buildings that you know are aware of, that these are absolutely secured. We quite often deal with, as I said, rubbish fires, refuse fires, but where it then becomes a building fire, there's a firefighter safety risk for our crews as well. Moving across the page to non-domestic fires. I realise I'm going through this fairly quickly, but hopefully you've had a time to read it all. For the 6-month period, non-domestic fires remain relatively low. So non-domestic, that can be boarding houses, educational premises, education and culture, and public buildings. Our fire safety enforcement teams continue to work with businesses to ensure compliance through audits in education, and that is as a preventative measure to stop these fires from happening in the first place. I'm pleased to report no fire-related casualties from non-domestic fires during the reported period. Across the page to unwanted fire alarm signals. We are now well into our unwanted fire alarm system reduction strategy, and we've seen a significant drop. The trend chart at the top of the page there, which is our section 8, really shows that cliff edge where we introduced this reduction strategy, and it's been fantastic for us, allowing us to focus far more on our preventative work and ensuring that our firefighters are trained and up to date with the most effective equipment and training available. Clackmannanshire South reported the high number of UFAS incidents, and again our fire safety enforcement teams will visit and look to reduce unwanted calls through fire safety compliance. We will always continue to support premises duty holders to ensure the highest level of fire safety, and the UFAS champions will continue to robustly engage with Clackmannanshire Council, Education and NHS stakeholders. These are previously and predominantly the main cause of unwanted fire alarm signals and have been for a good number of years. Road traffic collisions. Road traffic collisions remain relatively low within Clackmannanshire. Crews responded to 8 road traffic collisions during this period, with 3 people transported to hospital by the Scottish Ambulance Service. Again, we continue to engage and work with Police Scotland and other partners to champion and deliver road safety awareness and educational programmes across the area. Further to this, our local stations carry out regular familiarisation on the road traffic collision cutting techniques. We've just introduced a whole range of new equipment within our appliances, which is great for us, but we want to stop the collisions from happening in the first place. So really education is where we're going with that one. The next sections of home fire safety visits and fire safety enforcement give an overview of some of the work that our community safety and fire safety teams have been carrying out. 85 home fire safety visits to the most vulnerable in our communities is fantastic. That again supports people living longer in their own homes with less of an impact on our partners and other resources such as NHS. And the section 12, which is our community safety and engagement, I hope people have had an opportunity to read. That's where we kind of pat ourselves in the back a wee bit and demonstrate some fantastic partnership working and some of the areas that we really want to focus on to prevent fires and accidents from happening in the first place. And I cannot highlight enough the benefits of partnership working as we look to support the most vulnerable in our community. I'd like to thank all those who have helped us over the last 6 months during that reporting period. These are the stats we can measure. So we've just talked through about how many fires, how many people have been involved. But the stats that we can't see is through all that prevention work, how many people and lives we've saved through early intervention. Chair, thank you very much. I'd like to welcome any questions and comments from the committee.
Thanks so much for such a comprehensive report. It was really excellent to read and to hear from yourself as well, speaking about that. So I'll hand over to questions, and Councillor Forson.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for the report and the kind of updates there. I suppose for me, again, I'm going to ask a question asked the police, and it is about the commitment to the community planning partnership, and kind of moving forward, you know, really moving the work that we all want to do on, as you've mentioned there. Preventative work's really important, and I actually did want to just highlight some of the good work that Rachel has been taking part in, particularly around our community wealth building anchor partnership. I think she's really made that a focus, so that's been really, really welcome, and hopefully that continues moving forward as well. I wanted to just touch on the cooking related accidental fires. So I'm just wondering, what specific local interventions are being planned on this one? And is there anything that we can be doing in partnership? I'm thinking of the Health and Social Care Partnership, because I am assuming, and maybe assuming wrongly, that it's maybe older people that this tends to kind of happen with. So is there anything that we can be doing there to just provide a wee bit of support to try and tackle this and bring these numbers down?
Thank you, and thank you, Chair. Yeah, again, I think like the police, we will absolutely demonstrate our commitment to the community planning partnership. And Rachel Rogers, who is our community safety group commander, so my equivalent, Rachel was here in April delivering to this committee the annual report. And I think is making a real difference. She's building a fantastic team, a very visible team that hopefully are attending. You know, you mentioned as well about statutory partnerships. Moving on to the cooking specific. So we do carry out home fire safety visits, and you're absolutely right. It does tend to be older people. The drive to keep people in their houses longer, to keep them away from a hospital setting or a care setting is great, and it brings a real benefit to that individual. What it brings is some additional risk, and that's where we come in, and we can look to identify that additional risk and put in some preventative measures. There's lots of equipment and things we can put in place, not just detection, but there are technology that can, if somebody moves off a mat, for example, it can switch the cooker off, or there can be various alarms or things that we can put in place. We also then would use our partnerships, and we can refer to partners. But what we really have to encourage is where our partners are aware of these people within their homes, or if people are being discharged from hospital back into a home setting, we really, if we don't know about them, we can't help them. And usually the first time we know about somebody is when somebody has dialed 999, or it's come through a collector service to say that there is a fire or a detection gone off in that premises. So the referral pathway has to be really much more robust and really much more well used by partners. Tell us who they are, and we'll go out and do that piece of work. The health and social care partnership, is there something you can do? There's always something we can do. We previously have ran initiatives such as Cook Safe, where we can bring a group of individuals into a setting, and we can show them how to safely cook. That's also then, we bring in a third party to do that, and they might decide one day we're going to teach you how to make some soup. So they start from the very basics right through to how to make sure you've switched on and switched off your saucepans. That sounds very basic, but it can make such a difference. So I think, Councillor, if it's okay, that's one I'll pass to Rachel, and hopefully that can be picked up within that planning partnership or another forum, if that's all right. I'll definitely pass it on.
Yeah, brilliant. And I know that there's a couple of officers on this, Sharon Robertson and Joanna MacDonald, who are involved in the health and social care partnership, etc. And I think if we can really tighten up those sorts of referrals, you know, if we can bring those numbers down, it can only benefit everybody.
I agree. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Forson. Sharon, did you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks. If I may, it was just to confirm as well that as part of our partnership working with the Scottish Fire Rescue Service, Rachel is a member of our Children Young People Strategic Partnership Board, and we do have regular attendance. But also in terms of the fire safety and the home visits, we've identified, again, we have good partnership attendance from Scottish Fire Rescue Service at the Child Protection Committee and the Adult Support and Protection Committee for Clackmannshire. It's excellent. We've also got a specific risk on the Child Protection Register and the Adult Support Protection Register in relation to fire safety, particularly Councillor Forson, around your question, particularly around our older people and more vulnerable people and families. And to ensure that all our officers are fully aware of the home visiting referral pathways, and that has actually been increasing. So it was really just to provide assurance around some of the work that we're doing with the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Sharon. Councillor Harrison, you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I think it's really good, and it's really good to see all the proactive work that you do. You kind of answered my question as you were talking. I was going to ask about the deliberate fires and why there was a peak. I kind of guessed it might have been around about school holiday time, and it's good that you were saying that you actually go into the schools because you identify that. it's probably a wee bit back to my question to the police around about antisocial behaviour. Do you partner with the police at all when you go into the schools around about that? Because the deliberate, you know, the kind of bin fires and the refuse fires, yeah, that's likely to be kind of school kids and antisocial behaviour linked in. So I wondered if you actually partnered with the police when you're in and about the schools.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Absolutely. We have all the details of the school link officer or schools link officers, of which there are some in some schools and not in others. And while I'm not clear on the specifics of who they are and if they're still in the click manager schools, it's absolutely the way that we operate. The link between deliberate fire setting and antisocial behaviour has been made over the years, and it's quite clear to see. It also tends to be repeat offenders. So quite often when we work with Police Scotland, they probably already know the people that are involved in this, and they're known to the police and are under some kind of order a lot of the time. But yes, we will also report that deliberate fire setting as a crime. So while we deal with the incident, it then is reported as a crime to Police Scotland for investigation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Do we have any other questions? No. Well, I'm happy to move the report. Like I say, it was an extremely, so much of a comprehensive report. I didn't have any questions because you answered them all. So that was excellent. So no, I think, you know, as a committee and as the wider community, we really value the work of the fire service. But I think what's really excellent to hear is not just obviously the dangerous work that you all do and do so well, but also the preventative work which makes such a difference. So I've always seen you out and about at community events and, like, you know, really raising awareness, which is absolutely excellent. So we're really grateful for you coming along and for providing this really comprehensive report for us. And so I'm very happy to propose the report. And can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Forson?
Yeah, I'm happy to second the report. Just like Janine says, it's really highlighted all the work that goes on. I think there's a perception out there that, you know, kind of the fire service are only there when they're actually out putting out fires or kind of, you know, attending emergency things. But the report really kind of brings it into kind of context, all the other work that's done behind the scenes and maybe not fully appreciated. So it's a good chance to say that it is appreciated, and we do welcome all the partnership work, and so happy to second the report.
Okay, thanks very much. We're open to debate. Would anybody like to debate the report? No, happy to note. Okay, well, thanks so much for coming along and thanks for preparing that report for us. We really appreciate it. So thank you.
Not at all. Thank you all. We'll go now if that's all right. Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye.
that's fine.
Bye.
Thank you. Okay, so we're now moving on to item 6, which is the annual report of the Chief Social Work Officer 24-25. And Sharon, I think you're presenting that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, committee members. So, yes, I'd like to present the Chief Social Work Officer annual report for the period 1st of April 24 through to the 31st of March 2025. As you'll be aware, the report is presented to fulfil a statutory requirement where we have to publish an annual report and outlining the roles and responsibilities of the Chief Social Work Officer. But it also provides yourselves as elected members with an overview, but also more importantly, assurance of the work and oversight of social work practice and the values and standards that are being upheld and set out in national guidance. So you'll see the report follows a structure and guidance that's issued by the Officer of the Social Work Advisor in the Scottish Government. So the focus of the report is under the local government governance and accountability arrangements. It covers service delivery and performance, also looks at resources as well as workforce. So the report provides a summary of social work and social care service activity during that reporting period of the last year. It also includes performance information across key areas of statutory social work and public protection. And you'll see from the appendix, there's more detailed performance analysis of child protection and adult support and protection. The report also highlights significant developments. It covers some key achievements, as well as identifying challenges that are being faced by services throughout the year, particularly in the context of increasing demands and the ongoing budgetary pressures across both council services as well as the Health and Social Care Partnership. I also want to highlight some key achievements over the last year, which is also highlighted in the introduction of the report. So you'll see that our early help team was awarded a prestigious COSLA Excellence Award. That was the SOLACE Team of the Year for 2024, and recognising the pioneering cross-sector collaboration that the early help team is in working with all our partners across the community planning partnership. There's also been our development of our Bairnshuis, which is setting some new standards in trauma-informed right-based support for children. Our Scottish Child Interview Model, which is a national initiative, is now fully embedded, and all our joint investigative interviews are being delivered in partnership, which is ensuring a consistent, high-quality, child-focused outcomes. We've also put in place a new care experience hub, so that's been launched in partnership with Barnados, so that provides a weekly opportunities for our through care and aftercare support for care leavers and giving them a connection and ongoing support. Our Justice Hub model is also quite pioneering, and it's delivering early preventative support through a skilled multidisciplinary team, and is, as I say, leading the way in proactive justice interventions in Clackmannanshire. Also linked to that is our unpaid work projects. They're making a real visible difference in our local communities, and we've had national interest from the Scottish Government visit recently, and our work is being showcased in other areas. We've also in adult care services, they've seen the development of a newly established multidisciplinary team, which is transforming adult social work. So there's an integrated decision-making process, it's ensuring timely interventions, and it's strengthening multi-agency collaboration. It's fairly new in development, but it's certainly showing some real positive impact. And we also have a pioneering hoarding initiative. So the pilot's driving high engagement through tailored person-centred support that empowering meaningful and self-paced change for individuals who would perhaps not be known to our current services. And there are links, again, we've spoken about the Scottish Fire Rescue Service. So when we are coming across vulnerable individuals, there's clear links being made with the Scottish Fire Rescue Service in terms of what support they can be offering to those individuals as well. Likewise, in the yearly report, I also feel it's really important in my role as Chief Social Work Officer to recognise the workforce and just the achievements that are outlined in the report about their commitment and professionalism, as well as our support to our unpaid carers. And the report concludes with a looking ahead section, which again just outlines just Clackmannanshires complex and landscape, which is around our increased demand, the various legislative developments and changes and policy requirements that we need to implement, as well as financial and workforce pressures that we're all experiencing. But really looking ahead, the focus will be on sustaining transformation, strengthening our partnerships, and ensuring our services continue to be compassionate, purposeful, and aligned with the changing needs of all those that we serve in our communities. So I'm happy to take questions. I've also got some officers on the call if there's any particular questions as well. But just to note that the report will subsequently also be submitted to the Office of the Chief Officer Advisor to the Scottish Government. Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much, Sharon. And again, this is just an absolutely excellent report. It's so comprehensive and so much information for us. It was really excellent to read all the good work that's going on, but I'll hand over to Councillor Forson for a question.
Got a couple of questions, Sharon. Is this the report that Kyle did the artwork for?
Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
do you maybe want to mention that to the
Yes, I
committee?
have. Yeah, no, thanks for reminding me. I have put an acknowledgement actually in the report, but yeah, I think it is really helpful. So it was actually one of our young people, Blake. So we have a 14-year-old, and he had he's actually designed the cover for our annual report this year, and Councillor Forson presented him with an award at our recent Care Experience Week at the Alloa Town Hall last week, just to thank him for his artistic contribution in designing the front cover. So it was a really good piece of work that he did, and he was really, really pleased with his efforts as well. And hopefully you can recognise some of the landmarks that he's drawn on the front cover as well. But thanks, Councillor Forson, for highlighting that.
Yeah, sorry, I thought it was good because it was really a good effort from him. I've got a couple of questions. The report outlines how we've been kind of working towards keeping the promise, and there's a lot of work going, the Care Experience Hub, the Bairns House, etc. I was just wondering, what do you consider to be the biggest, I suppose, challenges in allowing us to keep the promise locally, Sharon, and is there anything else that we can be doing to help support that?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the challenges is around ensuring that we've got the right capacity, but also resources to move forward. I mean, I would see that keeping the promise is about ensuring that all our care experienced young people get the help they need when they need it. And I would see in Clarks that that's something that we continue to do through our Getting It Right for Every Child policy. So that's for all children, young people. We do have a partnership delivery group, and it's ensuring that all partners are taking forward the promise. Obviously not just the council. For our care experienced children, young people, it's social work that take the lead as the lead professional, but that doesn't mean that all our partners collectively are part of that child's support in the family.
Hello, Stephen.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I don't know what that. No, I don't know if somebody wanted to come in there. No. Okay. So we've got a plan, a delivery plan, and it is multi-agency. It's chaired by Joanne Roddy. She's not unable to come here today, but that plan is a collective contribution of all our partners. So we can't achieve this just on our own. We need all our partners to be on board with it. And I would hope that the report does show the work that we are doing in a partnership capacity. But the challenges are that, we're delivering on the promise, but there hasn't been any additional resources coming through from Scottish Government to deliver on that. So what we're achieving in Clackmannshire, which I think we're doing a lot, and there's a real positive progress being made, we're doing that with our existing resources and the commitment of all our partners, and all the staff is involved as well.
Colin, you want to come in?
Yeah, just on that resource bit, can you hear me okay? I agree with many points Sharon says, but there is specific resources within the Scottish Attainment Challenge, and that is looking to really pinpoint some of the resources that come within education and actually target it round about support for individuals that are care experienced, instead of seeing that as just education, which most authorities I think probably have done. I think what we've tried to do in working closely with Sharon and the team is build supports that are actually not just within education but in social work as well. So we've recently seen a support worker supporting learners from, in a sort of dual role, support individuals within our care home at Woodside. We've obviously got our virtual head teacher role that is partly funded through that same fund, and we've also got our MCR coordinators that help develop mentoring approaches for all our care experienced young people in the school. But yeah, more resources always welcome, but just to highlight, there is some targeted resource that we do use effectively across that partnership.
Thanks for pointing that out, Colin. I suppose the point is that there's no new additional resources, so these resources are already there. So they're not new and aligned with with the work of the promise. So I think that was probably what I wanted to say, that it'd be really good if we were actually getting additional resources on the existing policy monies that are already coming forward, that can really take forward and strengthen and deepen the work that we want to do.
Thank you. Joanna, you want to come in? You're on mute, Joanna.
Massive apologies. I was just wanting to add, Councillor Forson, that we're saying the impact of keeping the promise is about recognition of the care experience for our adults, for those who are coming into our mental health services and our justice services. And I think one of the things we do really well here is we don't just focus on children, we're recognising that whole impact of growing up without feeling loved and cared for, and our next generation here in Clackmannanshire are going to certainly have the benefit of how we're acting now, but we certainly talk about it in adult services as well, the impact of being care experienced for our adults' outcomes.
Okay, thank you. Was that you, Councillor Forson? Yeah. I was just wanting to ask on page 89, and it was under about the Caledonian programme, and you had highlighted that there were issues with the funding for the Caledonian programme where there was a 68% funding cut. Can you maybe just give us some information about what that'll mean for the service, and if there's anything that can be done by us in the council to influence that in any way?
That's fine. Yeah, I'll bring Scott MacDonald in to go into a bit more detail. But yeah, there's a new formula being agreed by Scottish Government for the distribution of justice social work funding, which includes the Caledonian funding as well. So there'll be a phasing out over the next 4 years. But from that formula, Clackmannanshire is losing out on what we were. So we're going to see a reduction. But I'll bring Scott in just to talk a little bit more about the detail around that, if that's okay, Councillor Rennie.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Sharon, and thank you, Chair. Yeah, it obviously stands out. It's quite significant given the position that we are in Clackmannanshire with gender-based violence and still being in one of the highest percentile. So it is disappointing to see that. What I would say is that 68% cut that we will be receiving in terms of the Caledonian will be done over a dampening period over 4 years, so 25% each year. We do have some form of contingency that we have set aside something so that the drop in service delivery won't be noticeable in terms of those who we're supporting just now. I think we've got about a 12-month period where we can look at other resources that we can fill that gap with. But that gap of 68% ultimately would take away on paper our women's worker service, which in turn takes away our Caledonian programme. Now, Clackmannanshire has been one of the first areas that have implemented the Caledonian when it was first initiated. I was involved in that back in about 2009. So we're pulling out all the stops to keep it going. The Scottish Government is now rolling out the Caledonian across 32 local authorities. So whilst there is more money went into the pot for that, it's been spread a lot wider than the 19 local authorities that were delivering it. That's on the basis of it is a really good programme because it is a whole systems approach. It's not just about supporting perpetrators. This is about supporting survivors as well. And it aligns with our early intervention work that we're doing in the preventative work. And what I've highlighted to the Scottish Government is actually this could be the result of the success of our early intervention. And as you know, our early intervention was to stop clogging up the justice system and everything else that entails. But primarily it was to stop further offending and creating more victims. So there is a working group with Social Work Scotland just now looking at measurable outcomes, so how that could be taken into consideration for formulas moving forward. It has been acknowledged by the Scottish Government and Social Work Scotland as well, so it's not just, well, tough, get on with it. So that's welcomed. As you know, we have developed here a multifaceted approach. There's a real theme that's coming from today's meeting about collaboration, and that's allowed us to do the early intervention, whether that's through Police Scotland funding, housing funding, from Children's Services, across the board. So that's allowed us to keep the service running. That's where the resilience is there, and that will continue to go forward. Councillor Forson spoke about the Violence Against Women and Girls Partnership, and I would put a real emphasis on the Community Justice Partnership, and you'll see that within the report there. We talk about Police Scotland being present, and same with the Fire and Rescue. All these key partners all contribute, all attend, and are all providing various supports, whether it's funding or practicalities as well, to sustain this early intervention. So it's not that things will stop, but it gives us a bit of breathing space to actually see what contingencies that we can develop moving forward. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Happy to answer any more if you have anything else. Thanks.
Well, thanks very much. And I'd met with yourself, Scott, and had a really helpful meeting. So thank you for that, which gave me loads of context behind everything, which was really helpful. So just to feed that back to the committee, that was really useful. So thank you so much for your time on that. Just on another matter in terms of children with disabilities, you know, I just noted in the report that there was a 131% increase in children with additional support needs. And I imagine, and I've raised this before at other committees as well, that with the long waiting list for CAMS, that may raise some challenges. And I just wondered if you could maybe explore that a bit.
Yeah, I'll start off and then I'll perhaps bring Gillian Scott in, who oversees the Children with Disability Service within Children's Services. So the increase that we've seen, particularly over the past year, have come predominantly from the nurseries, ELCs and schools, from education. But what we're seeing is actually, it's not that they're being referred, the disability is rising, it's the fact that actually people are better identifying and responding and recognising conditions, and where there's learning, you know, sort of more complex. So it's not just mental health related for CAMS as well. You know, we've got children with autism, ADHD, etc. So there's a growing identification and awareness that's coming across, but it has impacted on the referrals that are coming through to our Children with Disability Service. And as I say, the predominant ones are, they are coming through our education service. But I'll bring Gillian in because she can talk a bit more about it. We have summarised in the report some of the work that we're doing to, you know, with our Scottish Autism partners, for example, to support children and their families, but we are still struggling with some care packages. We do have some children and their families who have not got the appropriate support package, and so we're undertaking work to commission bespoke services. But I'll bring Gillian in just to talk further around the work that we're doing. Thanks.
Thank you. There's not an awful lot to add to what Sharon's commented. There are a couple of points. As it stands, the Children with Disabilities team only is able to work with children who do have a diagnosis of some description. So some of what you're saying, Councillor Rennie, does impact on the service. People are recognising, as Sharon has highlighted, that their child may have an additional support need and are seeking that diagnosis earlier. And what we're seeing is a rise then in those referrals coming through. But what the team have also always tried to do is to offer support as early as possible to families. So what we will work to do is, for instance, work alongside education or other social work colleagues in a kind of advisory or consultancy basis where a child doesn't yet have a formal health diagnosis, but clearly there is going through that process, which can take a very long time, as you're well aware. In addition, what we've started to do is to offer support to children who fit the criteria, although our educational psychology service don't use the term intellectual disability, they do assess children and are able to kind of do a read across with what the CAMS referral criteria would be for that, so we can offer support to those children earlier while they won't necessarily have a CAMS diagnosis yet. In terms of what we're doing to increase capacity around providers, in addition to Sharon's highlighted, we've started to do some work specifically with Scottish Autism that's partly about providing a break in care for carers, as well as providing a valuable social interaction experience for the child. But we're also working with education around that. So we've currently piloting a model where we're trying to learn from the approach of Scottish Autism, who've been successful in managing to engage children and young people in a way that we've not been able to do in a traditional school setting. So what we're looking to do is to do a kind of wrap around. So you would have some provision during the school day, and then those known professionals would also be able to provide some of the provision at evenings and weekends, so that children are receiving support at times that suit them and provide a break in care for their parents. We've also identified a number of other providers on our framework this year. That one of the biggest challenges for us in Click Manager is that the services that we use to provide, for example, care at home to children with physical disabilities, quickly fill up in terms of capacity. So we've worked with quite a few new providers to look at whether we can support them through the process, for instance, of registering with the Care Inspectorate as a provider for children, rather than just 16 plus or just 18 plus as some of them are. And we're working with those who have been on our framework for some time to try and look at how we help them increase their capacity so that they can offer that support to more children. And so far that work is going very well.
Thanks so much, Gillian. Just to come in, I've just had a message to say that Melanie doesn't think we're quorate as a committee. I just wanted to check that with others to see if that is the case. Chris?
Yeah, we seem to, with Councillor Coyne had been in the meeting, he was able to hear us, but he appears to have dropped out. So we're now only down to 4 members of committee. And to be quorate, the majority need to be from the opposition parties, but we're 50-50 at this moment's time.
Oh.
A majority of opposition parties in the quorate. So we would technically have to suspend the meeting.
I'm sorry to hear that. It's been, I mean, I realise that would be really frustrating for everybody with all the work that's been put in.
If we maybe take a short break, Councillor Rennie, we'll maybe give Councillor Coyne a call. I understand he may be coming into Kilncraigs, so we'll see where he is, and if he can join us physically up here, we'll give him a call.
We're just about break time anyway, so apologies, Colin. We could bring you in when we come back as the first item. If we
no
can
problem.
get back. Yeah.
Thank you, no problem.
So we'll take a 10-minute break and hopefully we can get Councillor Coyne.